Hi guys, Andrew Davidson here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at a series of games called the Legends of Andor. The video is going to have two parts to it. The first part I will be just talking about the game in general, the theme, what it's like, how it plays. The second part of the video I'm going to be talking about the narrative structure of the game. So for those of you that don't know, I originally started this YouTube channel to talk about and explore games that are narrative games. I love narrative games. I love games that tell stories. It's why I started the channel. It's something that I've studied in my academic career. I wrote a thesis paper on narrative in games and the social implications of them. And so this was just something that I started my YouTube channel. So this is actually a pretty fun video for me because it's showing off one of the bunch of games that I want to talk about that is specifically why I created this channel. So this is great. So let's start with the first part. Legends of Andor is a trilogy. And I'm going to be showing off the boxes and stuff here. So there are 3 boxes to them. You can buy them individually, but they play as kind of a whole. So like that. So the theme of it is, it's basically like a Lord of the Rings. So it's a cooperative fantasy game that is a narrative game. And in the game, there are certain scenarios in which you have certain tasks that you have to do in order to win the objective and move on. The game does have some replayability where this game you'll be doing something, but if you set it up again, you'll pull a different random card and you'll be doing something else. There'll be this boss. There's one specific scenario where there's like 4 different bosses, and depending on a die roll, that's how your game is going to go. So there's a lot of like branching kind of parts to it. But in a sense, you're just working together, playing heroes of this fantasy world called Andor. And so it's got all the tropes. You got like a warrior, you got the archer, you've got the dwarf, you've got all these different people that you can play. There's even some expansions that give you even more people. So there's a ton of people to play in this game. And so that's kind of how the game plays. You're really just managing time, kind of fighting monsters, doing whatever the scenario is. I can't get any more specific with that because the game is, as I said, a narrative game, so it really is progressive. It's not just like a Monopoly where you set up and do the same thing kind of game after game after game. So that's about as close as I can get to telling you like what you really do in the game. You will be working together with your characters, fighting monsters or saving a castle or going and escorting people around. The boards are huge. They're double-sided. They all come with a bunch of pieces, as you'll probably hear when I start picking up the boxes, because they're full of stuff. This game was nominated for the Kinderspiel quite a few years back, maybe almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago. It is a great cooperative game, especially if you like fantasy. So, getting into the narrative structure of it, and here's where I'm going to start talking about things kind of in a weird way. I'm going to be talking a lot about the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, I don't want people to go out and buy this game thinking, I'm buying Lord of the Rings. It's not Lord of the Rings. Okay, so this is my caveat. But that's the one thing that I know in kind of the cultural zeitgeist that people can have a connection with. So I'll be referring Lord of the Rings a lot. So this game has 3 boxes. Each box is like a movie. And each scenario inside of each box are like scenes within that movie. If that makes any sense. So you have Lord of the Rings. It has 3 movies. First, second, third. They all kind of build on each other. There's also scenes inside of the movie that happen, skirmishes and little things of like, we have to go here, or we have to take this person here, or we have to go around and do this, or there is actually a mines scenario, adventure in it, where you go into a mountain, into a mine. So yeah. So when you think about a narrative structure, I've talked about games like Time Stories. I've talked about games like This War of Mine that have narrative. Time Stories is more of a linear kind of exploration game, whereas This War of Mine is more of a thematic, cooperative You know, you kind of make up the story as you go. It's not necessarily, there's a little bit of reading to it. But anyways, this is like watching 3 movies. So this is the closest thing that I would say to someone that it's like if you want to have a movie experience in a board game, narratively speaking, I would say The Legends of Andor for sure. Time Stories feels kind of like an interesting and a unique event that you can play with your friends. I definitely am not crapping on Time Stories at all. I've done a video about it. It is a great game. This War of Mine is also kind of a dark, deep, thematic, kind of keep your people alive, they're suffering. Same with like Robinson Crusoe. This game feels like you're watching movies. It really does. Everything is cohesive, all the scenarios run together, and they all make sense for the most part. There's one part that I'm not going to get into because no one is really going to reference where I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But for the most part, everything makes sense. So it's like you're watching or playing these movies, this trilogy. And so it feels kind of like, hey, instead of like sitting down and watching Lord of the Rings and going through all the Lord of the Rings movies or trilogy, we can do The Legends of Andor. We can do like our own board game movie. And like I said, the narrative structure does allow for a little bit of replayability so that you have a little unique experiences taking on this boss or having a certain task that you have to do that's like, you know, we never had to do that last time I played through this. I do recommend that you get all 3 boxes. Having said that, that is a big financial thing as each game is a huge box. And so it is a commitment, but it is hours and hours and hours and hours that you'll get from your money of engaging in this story, being immersed. I mean, I was so immersed in what was going on. We had one particular character that we called John Merrick. That's just what we called him because it was easy to remember his name. John Merrick, the Elephant Man, by the way, who you have to save and do things that I was just like, I really care about this character. And I really feel like he does stuff for us, and this character comes in at times, and it's very just deeply thematic. It's a pretty rich narrative experience. On the other hand, the gameplay is really quite light. I would recommend this for probably 8-year-olds and up. I think I'll look on the box, it probably says like 10-year-olds and up. So it's a pretty easy family-friendly game. But man, is it deep in story because every scenario is something specific. So now that I've kind of talked about the structure, I want to show off the games because I always like to show off games at the end of my videos. And so you're going to hear a good bit of clunking around because these games come with so many pieces. In fact, I'm going to stop here for a second. One of the scenarios, which was an add-on, what you would call in the video game world like a DLC, it was an add-on thing that we did where we had so many pieces that unfortunately we lost the game, and it's like we didn't even get a chance to play with any of the pieces. I have pieces in these boxes back here that I don't even, for Legends of Andor, that I never even touched. I suppose that warrants something that I should say in my video before people get excited and be like, ooh, we can play like a trilogy game. This game is very difficult. It is easy to learn. It does walk you through it. The game comes with a tutorial where it has pieces that you'll pretty much use once, and then you can throw them away because it just helps you learn the game, learn the structure. But this game is difficult. I have not completely finished the third act, the third movie, if you will. I've played 10 games. Each game lasts about an hour or more, so I've put at least 10 plus hours into this game so far, with more to come, and I've only won 3 times. So there's that. This is a very difficult game, but it's also very narratively heavy. It's a great story if you like fantasy, if you just like stories, if you like Lord of the Rings. It feels like Lord of the Rings. So, okay, so enough of the side stuff. let's show off some of the boxes. So what you want to get is, oh man, it's heavy. The first one is just The Legend of Andor. And so it looks like this. It's by Cosmos. There was original printing by, I believe, Fantasy Flight Games, but they gave up the printing for Cosmos to print. And as you can see, it looks very Lord of the Rings. You've got dwarfs, you've got a magic user. That's right, there's magic in the game as well. This is the first one. The first one is basically the start of your story, right? And it's the first movie. This is the first movie in your, let's put it down, in your trilogy. And so when you get to the end of it, then it kind of ramps things up, right? For any of you writers out there that know about writing, there's kind of a trilogy formula, right? And so everything is really amplified. All the love connections, the bad guys get kind of a push back in the second movie or book or whatever. There is a trilogy structure you can Google if you want. A lot of trilogies follow it, like Star Wars and stuff like that. So in the second one, you're on a boat and you're journeying to the north. So it's number 2, Journeys to the North, and you're going to islands, and it does have that sort of narrative structure of what you're doing is really difficult because it's like, oh, the bad guys are winning, the world seems kind of fallen. There's a giant twist in this one, narratively speaking, where you get to a point and you just go, oh, okay, oh crap. This one has a lot of replayability as well, and so this one kind of takes you away out of the Andor world and brings you into the sea on a ship. And so that's the second movie. This one is great. I enjoyed this one a lot. The very last one that I'm going to show off here, you can grab it, is The Last Hope. This one brings your characters back into Andor, back into the hometown, kind of to save the day, to figure out things. So narratively, again, speaking, it does have that climactic sort of final battle, the Return of the Jedi sort of Lord of the Rings kind of feel, where everything's going to be coming together that you've been kind of working towards. Some characters from the first ones will show up. Some of them will be mentioned. You know, it's all kind of cohesive because the characters will be different this time than they were the first time, because it's like, oh yeah, that guy, he was lost at sea or something, or he got burned, and so the next time you see him later on or something, he's disfigured or whatever. So the game has a really great story that it tells. And like I said, there are 3 boxes. There are some expansions that you can buy if you want extra characters or if you want to play with more players. Right now it's just a 2 to 4 player game. You can make it 5 to 6 players. I actually do want to. It does say ages 10 and up. So, and I would go along with that. So you can play this with 10 and up. It's really easy to learn and play, but man, is it challenging. So what I really want to do, and I'll probably shut this down in a minute, but I just want to show off a narrative game. That's what I like to do. That's what I want to do on this channel. And I want to be able to share why I picked these games. This one I picked because it's like playing movies. I really do. I feel like myself and the contributor Shanine, we have sat down and we have kind of built and experienced this movie. There's some slight paths that we can nick this way and this way, but in the sense, you're headed towards this linear sense of narrative, and it's great. If you like fantasy, check mark. If you like cooperative games, check mark. If you like cooperative games that are really going to get your table to stop and go, wait, let's talk this out. If I go here, this guy will move, you can do this, and I'll play this card or whatever. You know, real critical thinking and teamwork type stuff, check mark. Great theme, great game, great narrative, great team building and cooperation, fair play building exercises. I would put the cooperative nature of this akin to a game called Pandemic. Now, thematically, they're not the same, but I had the same kind of feeling of, go here, we could win on your turn. Oh, but this is going to go, you know, so you really do have moments of just breaking down the turns and just kind of figuring out a puzzle. I think the first box is very difficult. The second box is, we had some wins in that one. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to say about the game. These are really great to pick up, to play with your family. 10-year-olds, teenagers, they like Lord of the Rings. If you like D&D, whatever, fantasy, it's more than just a dungeon crawl. In fact, it's not even categorized as a dungeon crawl. It's not just break a door down, fight some trolls, or kill off some skeletons or something like that. There's a lot of meat here. And story-wise, there's a bunch of meat. And so this is a great one to check into. I recommend you guys all check it out. I'm going to sign off. Thanks for watching. As per my ability, remember, The Legends of Andor. Great narrative game. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all at the next video.